it's me, Neeks, with the Prison Leaks. We're gonna listen to some more prison phone calls in our Watts Corrections playlist. This is my third episode in that playlist, and today we're gonna hear a call not with Watts' parents, but with a new guest who has since hit the headlines after appearing on Watts' visitation list. That's right, folks, we're going back to 1 year after the crimes had occurred, and after Anna hit the scene quite infamously.
Near December 2018, inmate Christopher Watts has moved from his Colorado facility into the Waupun Correctional Institution, located in Wisconsin. A spokesperson representing the Colorado Department of Corrections reported he was moved due to safety concerns and the high-profile status of the crimes. In 2019, a Wisconsin resident named Anna is headlining the news reports detailing her recent inclusion on his visiting list at the prison he's currently serving his time at, and she would visit him over 30 times in 2019. The news reports would refer to Anna, this recently added visitor, as the prison girlfriend. Turns out, Anna is actually already married to an ex-con named Philip. It has been reported that he has served time in the same facility that Chris is now consecutively serving life sentences for the murder of his family. Sometime after they obviously lost touch, for some unreported reason, she leaks a call which was reportedly with the private investigator named Mark. The call, which was facilitated by Anna using three-way, in violation of DOC regulations which bans the use of three-way communications. Still, the three commence in a conversation which is clearly an attempt by Chris to seek legal help, representing himself in the endeavor to seek relief from his convictions. The private investigator seems to entertain his hopes, and has a lot of honey words, filled repetitively with cliches to distract from the purpose of Watts' call, one that can really only be fulfilled by a legal professional, which the man admittedly is not equipped to handle. Stay tuned for Neeks afterwards and prepare yourself for hearing the most coherent and communicative version of Chris that you've witnessed to date.
Hey buddy, how's it going?
Not too bad. Thanks for taking the call.
Yeah, is it just you, or is Anna on also?
I'm here too.
All right, cool. All right, so just talk to me. I don't want to be the one monopolizing the conversation. So tell me what you want to know from me, or just tell me what's on your heart.
Well, just going into law library as much as I have, I see a lot of cases. I've heard a lot of cases around here, guys. I've seen a lot of cases where the DA or the judge have had a lot of misconduct, but the judge has ruled, say, well, it's not egregious enough, or it's not that that wow factor enough to really sway in the defendant's favor. I'm looking at the things that I know. I mean, I've never dealt with a law before, but all this, I'm swinging it in the law library as I am, and God directed me through little things like through the poisonous tree, the Brady law, and different cases that just it pops out of nowhere. But I know what God's put in front of me, and I see all these things that relate to my case. I just don't know how to frame this. Where like when I do this 35C, I've had the paperwork with me for probably a couple months, and I know I only have a year left to appeal some of those Class B and C felonies at a 3-year limit or 2-year limit, and I really want to figure this out where I can do it in the right time frame, but also not rushing anything. And I just want to get out of here. I know that God has a plan for me, and it's to be in prison right now, but not stay here. Because He brought me here for a reason. But He also wants me to do something on the outside. I know I just can't sit here and just wait. I know there's waiting, doing nothing, and there's waiting that seeking an action verb. That's what I'm doing. But I also want to know what action to take, because I have no intellect when it comes to the law. But I know He can teach me, and that's what I'm just waiting for. Things to fall into place. I just don't know how to do it.
I got you. and you don't have the benefit of an attorney that is in your hip pocket, so to speak. Okay, I've got a couple of attorneys here I can talk to that can maybe help. Get some good results, get some good advice for you in terms of forms and what to say, things like that. That's not going to be an overnight process for me to, get the results, we want. It's going to take some time, but, I'm not saying overnight, but I am saying maybe several days or a week or so. So let me see what I can do along those lines. Because I know you're in a tough spot, and it's how do you know how to do something when you don't know what it is you need to do? So it's tough. So I get it.
It's trial by error thing, but I know when the law is like, all right, you're gonna run into certain things where the motion's gonna get denied, or like whatever I write down, the judge might think, well, that's not that what you're claiming isn't enough to go back to. You're not warranted a trial. You're not warranted to have this appeal granted. Denied. And it's like, well, what do I do then?
Yeah.
And I don't want to get disheartened when that happens. I know it'll probably happen at some point, but not all motions are all appeals or granted right off the bat. That's why I want to make sure I write this the right way. When it goes there, they see like, oh well, it's like, do I put everything down that I know, or just like, I don't want to put everything down so they know everything that I'm on,
Well, okay, let me address a couple things in what you just said. First of all, you live in a closed society now. Every door is shut in your face. You cannot go from one. You go to one wall, you can't go further. You got to turn to your left, you can't go any further. So you know what I'm saying? You're in this perpetual this room with no door, so you cannot get through. You got that? You understand that? What I'm trying to say? So your world is controlled. You hear the word no probably more than you hear the word yes in that system. So one thing you need to be very accustomed to is being denied, being turned down, being told no. You with me?
Yep.
Okay. Now, some people will lose hope very, very quickly because everywhere they turn, every time they talk to someone, they're hearing things they don't want to hear. They're being told no. You can't do this. You can't have that. You can't go here. You can't go there. Whatever legal action you're trying to do.
Attorney calls may be monitored and recorded.
Whatever you're trying to do, you're always being told no. What you can't do is allow yourself to lose hope. Don't take no for an answer. And don't give up the first time you're told no. You understand?
Yeah.
So the key in all this is you got to be strong. You got to be physically strong. You got to be mentally strong. And you've got to understand that, you know what? You're the underdog, but underdogs can win. They can be a dog in the fight. So I want you to get this attitude that no matter what you do, we're not going to take no for an answer. They tell us no, we're going to try again. They tell us no again, we're going to try again. You just got to keep persevering and don't lose hope, okay? Because I tell you what, you lose hope, you lose your life. All right? So just keep a positive attitude about all that, and don't take any steps back. Just keep moving forward, even if it's a small step. Move forward and not backward. Okay.
Okay. Just like in my devotional today, it was Esther. It was a door of hope, and the Lord was speaking to Esther, and she was saying to the Lord, I've led you to the wilderness, but I will plant in that wilderness vineyards. if you go through the valley of Kor, which is the valley of trouble, I'll put a door of hope. So even though you're in a wilderness, you're going to plant vineyards in that wilderness. Though you're in the valley of trouble, there's going to be a door of hope in that trouble.
That's great. Well, I'm proud of you. Good job. Keep that up. Keep your nose in that book too.
I will.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what were you saying before we got cut off about when he asked? I can't remember what it was, but you were talking about the evidence and your confession that wasn't true.
Well, I just know that, like, I've never experienced anything like this before. Like, from the tragedy that happened, from the law enforcement to the interrogation, the jail, the prison, all this was new. All this was new. And I know that even though I've never had something like this happen before, I knew the shock and the trauma was there in my mind. I didn't know how to process it. And every question that they asked me, I was just agreeing with them and just going along with what they said. Because I was like, well, you got to tell them something. And even when they came here to prison and interrogated me, they were in their street clothes acting like they didn't, they were just talking to me when in retrospect they were actually interrogating me again. And I know for a fact that, that interrogation and I used because they were here in Wisconsin, that they're all Colorado based. So all that is like null and void, but still, they're going to try to use all this stuff against me. But I know that from that interrogation to the first one, that all that was like a coercive type psychological intimidation of someone that, had never been in that situation before, and they just use that to their advantage.
Well, Chris, what you witnessed firsthand is is a game. It's like getting back to the old biblical days where you've got the big Roman soldier in the pen with the little guy, and you don't know what to expect, but that's a terrible analogy, and I'm sorry, but I'm just saying, you just didn't know what was going on, and it's a game. That's what I tell so many people. This is a game that they're playing. You are the prey. They're the hunter. You're the prey, and they've got you exactly where they want you, and they're going to get, most times they're going to get what they want, because you know what? They keep you for hours. They deprive you of your basic needs. And as every second that you're with them in that chair and they're bearing down on you, your mind is actually deteriorating. Your mind is playing games against you. And that's why we have so many times where people give confessions for things that they just did not do. And it's because, you know what? They want to get out of there. They want to just tell them what they need to know, what they're asking, what they're interested in, so they can get out and go home. Well, you know what? Guess what doesn't happen? They don't go home. And their life is forever changed. So it's...
Yeah, it was like after I told them what they wanted to hear, then they offered me food.
Exactly.
So strange. But the thing I know, like what you're talking about playing a game, is when the FBI agent and the FBI agent, like when the FBI person, the woman, when she questioned me for hours, and then after those hours of interrogation, she puts me on a polygraph. And then I'm exhausted at this point. And then after that, I'm sitting there alone, and I hear them. It's because the film intercom doesn't pick it up. And I hear them outside the door. The FBI agent comes up to, "Oh, how did you do?" And she said, "Oh, he did pretty good, but I think we get some more out of him." And they come in with this game face saying, "Okay, you lied." I'm thinking to myself, wait, I thought you just said it pretty good. And I didn't question about it. I just believe what you said that they said I made it. But I know for a fact she said, "You did pretty good, but I think we get some more out of him." I'm just like, I'll only think about this stuff way after it happens.
All right, Chris.
Wow.
Chris, that's a little game. And I can tell you for a fact that they did not administer the polygraph in the proper way. You should have been on the top of your game, mentally, physically, spiritually, when they gave you that polygraph. You should have had a good night's rest. You should have before they gave you that polygraph. So I don't trust the polygraph. I don't trust the results, and they use that as a hammer over your head to scare you, because the polygraph scares everyone because of its reputation. We can talk more about that later.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking another call. I think I have like 30 seconds left, but I know that, God can lead me on how to write this thing up to get it back, and I just thank you for helping me and just going into that discovery. I mean, you don't have to do it, but you're doing it, and I just believe that you got some information on your heart that's really gonna break this thing open too.
Good. We're with you.
All right, he got cut off.
All right. Okay. Next time that you need me to come online, Anna, do this. Call me, and then if I don't answer, immediately text me.
Okay.
So I have to tell you, my phone screws up sometimes, and I don't want to miss a call or a text. So just as a backup plan.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything we need to talk about?
Nope. I'm just gonna call his parents now and let them know.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Just stay in touch with me.
I will. And if he calls back and wants to talk again, then I'll just text you or call you.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
For the purposes of professionally explaining to you guys the nuances behind post-conviction relief and certain things that Watts seems to have misconceptions about, I'm going to skip the whole morality bit and not even include here that, of course, I believe Watts is where he belongs because he did many wrongs to the girls. Even if you don't believe that he murdered them, he certainly aided and abetted situations which would denote a nice nap time, right? You need a little time out. Bella's prison sentence so far has been longer than Watts, so I'm not really even ready to discuss that yet, but for the purposes of a non-biased and professional, beyond the narrative conversation, I'm going to skip all of the morality stuff and just speak on how he is A, talking to a finesse god who knows nothing about the questions that are actually being queried of him, and 2, on some of the issues which Watts is communicating to this man and without actually receiving any answers. In fact, this entire conversation, the only thing that Watts really gets is a descriptor of the entire hell that he lives in, the prison that he's currently standing at, while he gets the speech about the terrible place in which he lives on the other end of the Securus or global telephone. But the bit actually works, and Watts seems pretty smitten that this dude kind of understands the quote-unquote game. So where to start? I guess we can start with that whole poisonous tree, because I know certain people who are not legal nerds are going, what the hell is wrong with this dude? And, legal nerds are wondering that too. So, yay, a community where we all have something in common. Isn't that cute? The poisonous tree being referred to here is a legal doctrine and a ruling from the Supreme Court, which in layman's terms denotes that evidence which has been obtained by illegal and unconstitutional means will be deemed first-generation fruit from a poisonous tree. Right off the top of my head, let's say that Mickey Mouse gets illegally detained and his car is searched and Mickey has some marijuana. Well, since he was illegally and unconstitutionally detained in the first place, no uniformed code, ethics, or standards, nor criminal procedures could exactly align with an unconstitutional stop to begin with, and therefore the whole damn thing is poison. Now, Watts notes that he feels like God has led him to this doctrine and that he has been led to certain legal insights which make him feel like his next mission is to get post-conviction relief. But he seems acutely aware that this this is a mammoth to slay, and he is not equipped with any of the tools to do it. He runs into a procedural issue here, namely that you can read the law and still have absolutely no idea how to utilize it, otherwise known as how to apply the law. How to actually litigate that through case by case and by court is a whole different standard and story than looking at the regulations that you'll be following whenever you do so. So Watts has obviously hit a wall, and he's asking some outside help here, and I'm wondering if Anna is not the one who has lined it up for him. Now, something that I know for a fact is also complicating this matter for Watts is that this is his first time in the system on the whole, so he's just now experiencing a lot of human indignities and a lot of inhumane treatment, except for their crimes of owning tools which would lend themselves to smoking marijuana. Or, gasp, grab your pearls, going to jail for having marijuana itself. It's herbal, it is a medicine. Okay, so there are certain things that are going to happen to you in the system that seem unfair and they seem cruel and they seem unjust. And in your mind, whenever they're first happening, it's blowing your gourd. Not only has his world and his surroundings changed, but his entire worldview has changed as well. Because he knows it doesn't matter how good of a person you were or know outside. Everyone's just a number on the inside. And everyone's scrubbing their drawers out with a bar of soap. That's how you get clean underwear every day in the jam. So to point out what I mean here, out of everything that Watts complains about during this conversation, not a single one of them would have lended itself to any post-conviction relief for the defendant. And this man is perpetuating that he can help him with shit that he can't help him with, such as as he put it, improperly administered polygraph. Oh, well, let's go in court and fight about it. Oh, wait, the polygraph won't ever end up in court and therefore can't be defended, and is not a scientific instrument, but a psychological one. It's an interrogation and intimidation method and tool used by police, and in the court which has had the most quackery and still to this day accepts certain quackery as totally admissible in court, and yet even our dirty courts have been like, all right, polygraph, you're doing the most. Get out of here. Ain't happening. The polygraph wasn't bringing enough half-assed data with the quackery to ever get in the court in the first place to even wind up banned like half of the other that American courts allowed. So he's yet again just changing the subject and telling Watts what he wants to hear, which is that he's been done wrong. And indeed, I agree in many ways these things are wrong and they are unjust. But let me tell you, as a professional who's actually attempting to help someone who is incarcerated, these things become a pile-on. And it seems like Watts is sort of somewhat aware of that because he seems to be already leading with knowing that he doesn't want to include data that isn't really relevant, that isn't going to help a defendant, as he put it. So he doesn't want to waste his time doing things that those action verbs, as he put it, are not going to actually lend themselves to being helpful with, as far as it pertains to his post-conviction relief or appellate issues. Absolutely no paralegal nor any attorney would even entertain him discussing that the cops lied during a polygraph, because the cops lie and they in fact are not only not breaking the law, but they're actually following protocol and techniques that were taught to them by their betters. So if the cops lie to a defendant and it gets them their way, woohoo, good job, go home, it's been a good day. Everything worked and policing won. Someone fought the law and, well, you know the rest. So the read technique, which was actually used on Watts a lot, and quite coercively so considering the amount of hours which he was detained and held for questioning, and those things could arguably enter the situation, but the lies were never going to enter in. And neither was the alleged Miranda wrong that people think that they see whenever they're observing the Watts crimes, because whenever the officer who is actually going to transport Watts from the station to the actual jail facility comes in and he cuffs Watts, and he doesn't read him Miranda like people see on cops. So I guess they assume that he was never Mirandized, but he was, because he's actually signed and waived his Miranda rights many hours before the cuffs actually go on. And cuffs are actually, in most jurisdictions, not even required during an arrest. So really, those cuffs don't denote the moment that you are not free to leave. And oftentimes, a detainee is not free to leave long before the cuffs go on. But long story short, Watts was properly Mirandized, and he did waive those rights, and he didn't need them to be read again whenever he's cuffed and transported to the Weld County Jail. I'm not trying to be a know-it-all, I'm just trying to get this whole thing sorted where we can kind of make one list that's like, okay, these things are fucked up, but they're normal fucked up. So we've learned never believe that the lies by police has had any constitutional bearing on your rights, because it hasn't. And they're trained to lie, and guess what? If they're talking and their mouth is moving, they're probably lying. Except where they tell you that they want to help you, because they do want to help you. They'll help you with a new pair of bracelets and a new address. 3 hot meals a day, well, at least 2. And at the jails that don't offer 3, you'll get a honey bun, so there's that. And yes, American jails are allowed to offer a honey bun in order to make up for caloric deficiencies, as though a honey bun could do such a thing. But what's that whole thing where I'm off track again? While we're not completely off of the subject, never make the mistake of thinking that you have to be Mirandized. You have your Miranda rights right now. You have them tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. You had them before and after the police read them. Reading them to you was decided in a Supreme Court issue completely separate from the fact that you have them constitutionally all the time. The statement of Miranda by the police is merely a disclaimer that you have been informed of those rights. So not only did you walk around and have them, but you have been informed of them. So not only did you walk around and have those rights every day, but you had actually been informed by the police, is the reason why they're reading you Miranda. It's not because they're actually giving you something you didn't already have. Just a friendly FYI. In case you find yourself in a spot that you don't want to be at, make sure you don't find it a place that you can't not be at, you know what I mean? So this dude is tracked back to an investigative company in Texas. Now these companies typically run simultaneous contracting businesses out of themselves, and they tend to work a couple of roles, like bondsman on side of quote-unquote investigator, PI, whatever they call themselves. Typically, if they have an investigative or PI license, they probably have a bond as a bail bondsman as well. And for my foreigners, yes, this is the same thing as Americans basically being able to own a person's right to freedom. They put a value on a human being's head and a human being's liberty. This is not only a legal route in America, but it is the legal route, and in most jurisdictions it actually requires that you hire a bondsman in order to get out, or you pay a full bond. So there's a little club of dudes who are allowed to grant liberty to inmates as long as they abide by that bondsman's terms and services and turn themselves into the bondsman when it's time to go back to court or back to jail. And if not, they accept the responsibility to run this person down, yes, much as they did during slave times.
Sidebar for the astute. Let's make sure facts compute. Let's review. The guy on the other end is promising this prisoner, this man in a closed society, to use his words, more susceptible to being sold a pipe dream. Unfortunately, something attorneys do often with their incarcerated clients, so he's not exactly operating differently from an attorney, but Neeks has asked me to stay on track for the purposes of this explanation. The voice, allegedly named Mark, is telling this inmate the following. I have a few attorneys I can ask. They'll know more about the proper forms for you to use, and what to say and all that. Attorneys at law, filling out the proper forms and knowing the right things to say, and all that. That is exactly, precisely the definition of litigation work, and what an attorney would do once they have been retained by a client. So let's review. This guy claims that within a week, he's going to provide an attorney in his translation of the law and procedures to apply those laws. In other words, to do what attorneys do, fill out forms using the right words, applying the law to their cases. So Chris has been offered an attorney for the low price of this private investigator. Seems legitimate, but wait, I guess it doesn't. This sidebar simulation was brought to you by Neeks, at Neeks Peaks Productions. Back to your scheduled programming.
So Watts is learning that jail is super inhumane, and he is confused as to which issues exactly you should bring up. It sounds like he's catching on to some of the lingo as well, because I noted that he said, should I just write it all down? I mean, what do I say so that they know what I'm on? So all of the things that Watts mentioned are all non-constitutional issues, and even though Watts actually does have some constitutional issues that he could bring up, he's obviously unaware of what those are. And as he's mentioned, even if he becomes aware of those issues personally, he is unaware of how to apply the proper procedures in order to litigate whatever issue he has going on. So The 31C is a post-conviction relief, and it's basically set up as an extra option for those who have actually exhausted all of their direct appellate options. So they're supposed to appeal with all of the courts that they have available to them, or whatever court pertains to them. For Watts, this would have been the district court, and appealing to a circuit court. And it actually comes down to being as sad as Watts simply needing to appeal his case with the exact judge and exact court that had just closed that case. Far away from the application of the laws, which he's been studying, and he's actually focused and hung up on the 31C relief when he should have been focused on direct appeals to the court that had just closed his case. After he had exhausted every single appeal option and been denied every single attempt, then he could have sought some form of post-conviction relief as a second resort. But it's a collateral approach, and one that would only be taken as a secondary route. The 31C simply judicially does not possess the power with which an appellate court does and could provide for a convicted inmate seeking that relief. The sad part is that he would have had a lot more luck actually focusing on direct appeals, and he literally has this address in his back pocket because it's the district court with which has just closed his own case. And he needed look no further than a written note to the exact same address with which he's been corresponding for his other cases. But as you noted, if you were paying attention, Watts didn't receive a single bit of legal aid from that entire conversation. It's my opinion that this dude is fully aware of his ineptitude when it comes to this subject. He seems pretty excited when he can take the conversation elsewhere and distractingly away from the question, which ended Watts' end of the conversation and begins his own. But when he gets to chatting, it's never to answer the question. He in fact didn't even note what exactly he was supposed to be getting an attorney to do. An attorney is going to do nothing for you for free. And the fact that Watts didn't ask for an attorney, so he didn't say, hey, I'm looking to hire an attorney. I need to retain an attorney. It's a pretty simple thing, and you don't need to call a private investigator to do it. So I smell a scam. Something was going on here, and we don't have the full story. But I think that Anna and him seem pretty chummy in the end. And obviously, one of the two of them is the reason why we have this tape right now. They are the reason why we are discussing it. So somewhere along the way, Chris Watts' relationship with one of the two of them has obviously deteriorated in a rather notable way, and rather publicly so. Even if they need a private investigator, I'm unsure why they would hire one that is based in Texas, mostly because out-of-state people are going to charge you more for the travel. And unless he is running a really rather large and rare PI service, it's just really confusing how the guy even got involved with Chris Watts vicariously and or through her. Now, my last but not least and maybe most annoyingly covert technique that was used to get the Wisconsin confession and rather has been left out from public perception, and that is that Watts during that Wisconsin confession is chained to a chair. I say chained, it could have been a shackle, probably was a shackle. It could have been a chain though. Either way, he was bound to the fucking chair. This has always been my assumption why we didn't receive the covert video which the investigators wore, and we only received the covert audio. Where's the video? Well, my guess is that the public perception of false confessions would lean and glean further towards the truth whenever you understand the dynamics that are happening here. Note that Watts is not told that there are federal agents and they're waiting for him, and this is not abnormal at all. Everyone acts like this is a big sneak attack, but feds go to prisons to interview people all the time. I cannot tell you how many inmates I've spoken to who are concerned for their future because of a recent visit from someone in the federal government who has come to interview them while they are already serving out convictions on previous crimes. One could understand why they flipped their shit. Either way, the most popular statement among them was, I thought it was an attorney. I don't know if it's everyone's story that the CO tells them it's an attorney, but here's the thing. When the CO or the DO or whatever they call them at your prospective facility, when they come in and they wake you up, or they come in and they get you out of that pod, they don't tell you who you're going to see. They tell you to come here. And if you don't, I'm not sure you're going to enjoy the near future very much because it probably entails a crazy chick. It's not exactly as if you have a choice to get up and do as you're told by the constables running the facility you're incarcerated in. So you do as you're told. You're told to come out of your pod, to come out of your cell, whatever it may be, and you walk with the CO as they escort you toward the room where the feds wait. As is the case with any inmate who is receiving a guest that they didn't actually invite via their visitation list, they'll be bound to the chair in which they sit. These chairs are already made for this. They're sitting in this room, ready to go, ready for a human to be tied to it. So this wasn't exactly the case for Chris Watts, but how it works out for many inmates is by the time that they find out that the people whom they're staring at are not actually attorneys who came for them, well, the shackles are already in place by then. Hands are already shook. And guess what? You kind of got to be a beastie motherfucker to look at the feds in the eye and say, fuck you. And then not only do you have to tell them, you think they ain't shit, and that you'd rather slam your hand in a sliding glass door than talk to them, well, then you have to turn around and you have to yell towards the door because you're bound to the chair you're sitting in. And you have to yell for a CO to come back and escort you. And you just sit there and you yell, hey, CO, guard, jailer, whatever the until he comes to see what all the commotion is about, and probably likely finally picking up his feet because, you're in there screaming where the feds are. And after that, all while staring them in their shocked little fucking eyes, you wait for the CO to unshackle you, and you give him one last hurrah before you go back to your cell and go back to sleep until chow time. I don't even think that Watts was made of the stuff that ever would have gotten him far into the trial process without conceding, because he typically tends to be a non-confrontational type of person. Trials are one of the rarest things that occur in our court systems. Rarely are they afforded, and by the time that they would be, the inmate or the person with a figurative chained leg has long been ready to fold or plea out to whatever will get them. For people who are wondering, that's why Watts agreed to talk to him, because the alternative is largely uncomfortable for the beastiest, and I do mean the beastiest inmates. There's some pretty hardcore people out there that'd probably be pretty uncomfortable being that blatantly rude to people who are at least feigning niceties to your face. Not to mention, you kind of hear him give him a Powerade or whatever, so it's probably better than whatever he had going on, right? So I didn't discover the crimes as early as many of you did, so I was late to the whole Anna discovery. It appears that Anna was no noob to the news, as I mentioned, and she had long been featuring in her hometown.
In a series of wrong-way and fatal crashes in northeast Wisconsin, Anna Nowak could no longer stay silent. She says it's time people see the harsh reality of driving drunk by taking one look at what happened to her when she did it. Before 3 a.m. on a Friday, she left a bar in Swamico and drove for nearly an hour, ending up near Black Creek in Outagamie County.
I was also texting and driving at the time.
She lost control at 60 miles an hour, flipped her car, and not wearing a seatbelt was thrown through trees and plunged into a snowbank.
I put my hands down to feel my legs to see why I couldn't move them, and there was just bones sticking out everywhere. I remember laying my head back down and I was like, God, I know I'm gonna die.
But a man driving by caught a glimpse of light from her car and called for help. Anna woke up in the hospital.
The first thing I remember them saying was, we need to amputate your right leg.
She begged doctors to save her leg, knowing that would also save her career. Anna was a nurse at the time and often cared for victims of drunk driving crashes.
It's just those people that think that it won't happen to me, that it will. Time I drank, I would feel guilty, but then I would always just go right back to, that's just not going to happen to me.
Every day since her crash, she's been trying to find a way to reach those people. There's no magic answer, but she thinks starting young would have helped her.
If I would have seen someone like me go into a school and say this is what happened with drunk driving.
Living to tell her story and share her faith is Anna's sign she can help others. She wants to speak to schools, community groups, or anyone who will listen.
Again, well, now we're finding out some new stunning information about those visiting Chris Watts. The visitation list is out. Who's seeing this guy?
Well, you know, first of all, let me just say it's important to watch this special, Mike, because of all the cases I've covered in the last few years, this is the one most viewers have written me about, friends ask about at cocktail parties and dinners, because it's so horrific to think of a father dumping his 2 children down oil vats. There's so many unanswered questions. Now, back to your question. Yes, he has a few visitors, but one in particular is quite interesting. It's a woman named Anna, and she has met Chris after the fact, since he has been in prison. And he's opened up to her a lot. Now, take what you will about what he says about what drove him to his crimes. And a lot of those reasonings are behind his affair, or involved in his affair with that Nicole Kessinger. Check it out.
Chris feels that if the affair would have never happened and she never came into his life, that the murders would never have happened. Never came into his life, that the murders would never have happened. He thinks that she had this strong control over him, that he describes like a leash that he wasn't able to get off of or get away from. And he thinks that that has played a role in what happened. And he thinks that that has played a role in what happened.
So he's claiming it's the hold on him by the mistress.